Greetings. My name is Isaiah Pinson. Today I am presenting my informal speech. My informal speech is going to talk about the history of jazz, how jazz was developed throughout history, and also how the great musicians and influencers that have changed jazz and made jazz what it is today. Alright. Have you ever wondered what life would be like without music? Can you imagine what life would be like if our ancestors didn't have that creative mind to plant the seed of music in our hearts to make life a little easier? Well, in this speech, I am going to be talking about a specific genre of music called jazz. I will explain how it was formed and some of the legendary musicians that helped to innovate a change in the jazz culture and the style of playing. Before it was called jazz, it was known as the blues. Back during the slavery era, blues was used to express their emotions during those hard times. They utilized the blues in a form of singing while they were out in the fields. So they would use those in like scenes, like in slavery movies. There will always be scenes of a series of slaves on the field and somebody singing a field holler, sure to say. That's what the blues is. That's what blues is. But okay. In those songs were messages of change or wanting change. They used those songs to uplift themselves during those harsh times of slavery. Blues is also the foundation of many other genres too, but we're only talking about jazz. Jazz was first originated in New Orleans, Louisiana. During that time, New Orleans was known for their musical background as it was developing during the 19th century. Music quickly influenced the culture as they began making songs and even dances that go along with those songs to entertain the people in their community. They used the standard instruments such as the piano, the guitar, the bass, the trombone, the trumpet, the saxophone, the clarinet, the tuba, and also the drum set, which was invented by jazz musicians, but the very first one was invented by a man named William Ludwig. Fun fact. As jazz grows popular throughout the history, I am going to talk about my first jazz musician that influenced the history of jazz, and his name is Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong was the main influencer in jazz. He was born August 4th, in 1901 in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is where jazz was started. And he started playing the cornet at age 13. He was an influential artist because he changed the style of playing. Before he changed the style of playing, jazz musicians played in a style called Dixieland, which allowed all jazz musicians that were playing together to solo at once. But when he came into play and put his new idea into play, he allowed musicians to still play with each other, but each musician would still have his own individual solo. And since from then on, that became the norm throughout jazz playing and history. Another influential artist that I am going to be talking about is his name is Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington was known as the most significant music jazz artist in America, probably in the world, if you ask me. But he was just the most significant composer. He was born in Washington, D.C. on April 29th, 1899. And he started playing the piano when he was only 7. The reason he was such a main influencer, not because he was just a pianist, a great pianist, he was also a great band leader. He moved to New York to better his opportunities to strive to become a band leader. And as he was known for a great band leader because he would compose music for a whole jazz band. Each musician would have his own individual part, customly made and designed by Duke Ellington. And Duke Ellington continued his legacy, and even in a scholarly article that says Duke Ellington, his life in jazz, with 21 activities, he composed over 2,000 works in his whole career. He maintained the best orchestra in jazz history for over 50 years. Another influential artist I'm going to be talking about is Dizzy Gillespie. Dizzy Gillespie was born in Charlotte, South Carolina in 1917 on October 21st. He got his first music lesson from his dad, James Gillespie, and he continued on that tradition of music in his life. Like Duke Ellington, he moved to New York City to find a better opportunity. He collaborated with many artists such as Thelonious Monk and Charles Parker and many other artists. As he continued to expand his career, he expanded more and started experimenting. And then he introduced a form of jazz called Latin American jazz. From then on, he continued his career, and his career just continues to inspire other musicians to this day. Excuse me. In conclusion, jazz is a genre of music that is a favorite in American society. Learning about jazz and its origin, it helped me to understand why jazz is important. It is the forms of all types of music in today's society. There are other jazz musicians that influence the culture, but I just wanted to talk about those three. Jazz will continue to live through our people as we continue the love for jazz and its unique sound that has been pleasing to hear throughout history. Thank you.